Hello, fellow ag nerds. Today's special episode is what I like to call a spotlight segment. Instead of our normal format of 40-minute long-form interview, it's just a short peek into something I find interesting. The topics for these spotlights are often determined in collaboration with our quarterly presenting sponsor, which this quarter is Case IH. If you listened to our last Spotlight segment with Dan Klein about a month ago or so, you already know that this quarter, Case IH has given me access to some of their key people to learn more about what goes into developing the tractors and equipment that farmers use every day. In the past, these spotlights have often been farmers, and it just so happens that's also the case here today. Chris Dempsey, just like Dan Klein, is not only a Case IH employee, but a farmer himself. Today's episode builds upon what Dan shared about how Case IH stays systematically customer-focused through their customer-driven product design, or CDPD, process. Chris, though, is going to share more about the integration of technology and iron and how all that comes together in the modern Magnum Tractor. A bit of his background here, Chris Dempsey has spent 12 years with CNH and Case IH in a variety of roles in the technology space, spanning dealer technical support, quality, marketing, and product management. Chris is currently responsible for overseeing precision technology integration across CNH's portfolio of iron products, as well as global go-to-market execution of technology solutions across CNH's house of brands. And the pride that Chris and his colleagues have in Case IH, and specifically in the Magnum, is very evident when you hear them talk about it. And I thought that would be a great place to start.
It's a cornerstone of the brand. You know, I grew up in, Northern Illinois, close enough to Racine to know, from a very young age. Ironically enough, the first year of Magnum was the first year that I was born. Not to give age away, but, it's a staple of the ag business, I think. Anybody who's been around, you ask them, what their favorite tractor is or what tractor they've had on the farm longest. I'd bet you $1, you're going to see a lot of hands that go up and say Boxcar Magnum, right? And so, there's a lot of pride in that for us, and maintaining that legacy of Magnum Tractor. It's a shared sentiment for all of us that, wear the Case IH badge. We know that, that tractor largely built the legacy that we're being asked to maintain and continue to grow.
I had another conversation with Dan Klein about kind of the farmer-focused part of your all's process. So I was wondering if maybe we can continue on. He talked a lot about how, he collects farmer feedback and farmer insights and then integrates that into the pipeline for how, technology is developed. Where do you all come in? If you were to give us an example of sort of like an iteration of a new technology, what does that look like for you? What's your role in that?
Yeah, I mean, we're a key component of that. And actually, Dan and myself and our teams work incredibly closely together on what I assume Dan explained, which is our CDPD process, customer-driven product development or product design, excuse me. And Dan, ironically enough, Dan and I both farm. And so we offer a, unique perspective, I guess, a little bit, but also a dangerous perspective in that we've got to design products, that aren't just for the Iowa, Wisconsin, Illinois, corn and soybean farmer, which both of us happen to come from the same background. But the CDPD process and how we plug into that from a global perspective is arm in arm. So we don't treat technology and iron products independently. We haven't for a number of years. We intentionally broke down that silo. Customers frequently tell us, look, your iron is nothing without your technology, and vice versa, that, they're inextricably linked, if you will. There is no option where one exists without the other. And so literally from the time that we start developing product to the time that we validate if the product that we've delivered has actually met the needs of the customer, we're working through that process from an iron platform perspective and from a tech perspective, again, arm in arm.
And how has advancements in technology changed, a product like the Magnum series that has been around for a while?
If you look at Magnum and you look at Magnum's kind of core use case, Magnum is a planter tractor. I think the first tractor ever planted corn with at home might have been a 1086, but closely followed by a 7120. Back then you had markers and you really didn't have a whole lot of technology other than maybe the little blinky light that said whether or not seed was coming out. We've progressed now to the point of where, customers are ordering planters without markers, which means the guidance on the tractor has to work, perfectly all the time, sub-inch in a planting application. And if it doesn't, it has become the equivalent of, the motor throwing a rod out the block, or a hydraulic pump blowing up or something like that. So, from how important technology is to Magnum, or what role technology plays to a Magnum use case, I would consider it as mission critical, if not more mission critical than arguably any other part of the tractor.
And when you're continuing to iterate on something that has been so historically successful, how do you assess, what technological advancements are going to be additive versus just like either, totally useless or even get in the way?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. It's kind of the tech for tech's sake discussion, and doing everything we can to avoid that. So, kind of job one from my perspective is protect the core. And so things like auto guidance, it seems obvious, but things like auto guidance have to work. Things like section control have to work all the time. You progress that process a little bit further, and in the last 5, 7, 10 years, we've introduced a heavy component of digital, off-board mobile app monitoring and management, if you will. And now all of a sudden you've got to have data that is flowing, back and forth. So you can check on whoever it is that's, operating your equipment, and ensure that wherever you're at, you can see kind of what they've got going on, and that they're not planting corn at 15 miles an hour and leaving seeds sit on top of the soil, and all the different use cases that go into that. So it's been interesting for sure, and exciting to see how things progress and the opportunities that exist in the tech space. But back to the original intent of your question, we are laser focused on what we consider non-negotiables. And if we, can't maintain those non-negotiables, or those focused areas that keep our customers up and running, then any level of new technology beyond that does no good for us or for our customers.
And, from your vantage point, I'm sure there are people within, Case IH that are developing this new technology. I would imagine in some of these cases, especially if it's software driven, it might be difficult to pinpoint what the cost of it is going to be, because it's mostly like, getting our talented people to sort of figure it out, not like you can't just calculate what's the cost of the iron going to be, right?
Yeah.
So how do you think about that in making sure that advancements are going to be cost effective for the end customer?
One of the things that we've changed up in the last handful of years is how we do product development. And, we've always brought customers in to our product development process at certain milestones to give feedback and say, hey, you're on the right track, or no, you're way off, kind of deal. And, that process largely took place when the product had reached a state of maturity that we'd already put a fair amount of dollars, or time and investment in it. And likewise meant we didn't do something else that might have been more important to the same customer. And so one of the things that we've done in adjusting our development process to lean a little bit more to the agile side is getting new product into the field with customers faster. And what's different in that mentality versus how we used to do it was, we'd largely develop in a bit more waterfall centric way until, we had a complete solution, which meant we didn't catch things fast enough, or we made it too far down the path, and we didn't get feedback early enough physically in the field on a piece of iron, with a target customer, to kind of make those decisions. And also it's helped us understand quicker in the process if we're going to be able to develop something at a cost that's going to translate to a price point that a customer is willing to, adopt.
And in addition to price point, there's also the question of like, will they utilize it, or will they take the time to learn how to fully utilize it? Whereas, in the old days, if I can call it that, you get a piece of equipment, you drive it, you use it for the work you need to do. As it has become more technologically sophisticated, there probably also has to be this question of like, will the farmer even use this, or are we just wasting our money and their money by putting it on there? Is that something that you all think about? And that seems like a complicated thing to address.
It it is, we structure our go-to-market discussions, if you will, in kind of an awareness, adoption, and utilization funnel. And so there's, the starting point of bringing a new product to market and making a customer aware of it. Like, do they even know it exists? Farm shows, your typical channel marketing tactics, right? And then there's taking that a step further and saying, okay, we know it exists. Are we willing to pay the dollars for it and actually adopt it? And then there's the final kind of end of the funnel or the equation, which is utilization. Am I actually using it? And so one of the things that that data analytics has really done for us in the last 3 to 5 years is it lets us understand what customer base we have that's actually using some of these features and functionalities, especially as you put more technology into the base of your products. And so like a very real example of that is, we released our harvest automation, harvest command on our flagship combines. It's probably been 3 years now. And we've progressed to the point of putting that offering into base. So every machine comes with it. Well, you need to know if a customer is using it to recognize the value, to make sure that they want to buy another Case IH combine, right? And so when we started that journey, we had strong adoption and penetration somewhere in the 60 to 70%. But through some targeted actions and understanding where we had customers that weren't using it and getting to the field, quickly and talking to them to understand whether they didn't know it had that capability or whether they were having some challenges with it that we needed to address, that's allowed us to really quickly get to the point of where, we see utilization well over 90% at this point. So anything new that we build, especially from a software perspective, we generally are building in the capability to look at utilization metrics. And it's not a big brother thing. It's not like we're trying to spy on our customers or anything like that. It's just making sure that they're getting all the value out of our equipment that's, possible.
Well, I feel like I've heard it said for years, and I'm sure you've heard it a number of times that, the way things are going, there won't be a precision agriculture anymore because it'll be agriculture, just be the kind of the way we farm. So, you obviously still have the precision ag in your title. Is it getting to the point where it's so integrated that everyone needs to be thinking about this, or is there still a real need for someone on your team to like, hey, we're kind of focusing on the precision aspect of this?
I think I've thought a number of times in my career, and I've been in the precision space for about 12 years now, that the success for me was working myself out of a job for that exact reason, right? Like, I mean, if we're truly going to treat this as a singular product, then, why do you need guys like me? Yeah, I think the reality is a couple things. One, as you look at the vision or the reality of precision being used across all of our different platforms in a way that customers feel like it's consistent across the board and that they can transition from, season to season and year to year in a way that is very seamless and cohesive. Yeah, that's the view that we provide. And that's the direction that we provide. The other piece of it is to be, as a manufacturer, to be successful with precision, or let's say highly technologically advanced product lines, to get away from the precision specific terminology. We have to have a dealer channel that is really, really sharp in this space. And as fast as technology moves, continuing to make sure that our channel has the tools and the support that they need from us as a manufacturer, it's a different kind of support. You can't support technology the same way that you support a hard good like, an engine or a tractor or a combine. So for those reasons, I think, it's a bit of a unique skill set. It's a bit of a unique perspective. So I think for the foreseeable future anyways, they're going to need us.
All right, last question, and I promise I will let you go. How do you make sure that the Magnum stays just as relevant in the coming decade?
That is a fantastic question. Yeah, I think, and now I will sound like a broken record, but the answer to that question, whether it be where are we going in 5 years? How do we stay relevant, tomorrow and continue to be to provide the powerhouse that a Magnum Tractor is, I think is still answered the same way, in staying incredibly close to your customers and understanding what they need that tractor to do. Whether it's a horsepower bump to pull bigger implements or to pull the same size implement faster, whether it's, more automation or autonomy technology such that they're able to redeploy, labor into different applications, or whether it's the quality discussion and, just seeing too many things go wrong such that it's not delivering on the experience that we would expect to deliver for our customers, staying incredibly close to our customer base and continuing to keep them at the center of every decision that we make will ensure that we continue to provide, a Magnum Tractor that meets all their expectations.
Well, that's going to do it for today's Spotlight segment. Thank you so much to Chris Dempsey for being on the show. I've had a lot of fun in these conversations about the thought process behind the machines that I think a lot of us take for granted. I particularly enjoyed this one with Chris, though, focused on the tech and precision side of things. I think it's super interesting how a brand that's been out there since tractors were invented is using this modern technology today. Also, I think that there's a bit of a stigma out there that only startups are innovating when it comes to new tech, but certainly it's clear that guys like Chris and his colleagues at Case IH are equally as passionate about moving this industry forward into the future. So thanks again to Chris Dempsey for participating in this Spotlight episode, and thank you to Case IH for being our quarterly presenting sponsor this quarter. I'll be back with another full-length episode here in a couple days.